What we're looking at here is the breech plug to the cannon barrel we're making. We've cut it down to 3 3/8 and put 12 threads per inch on that. The inside of the chamber plug or breech plug is approximately 2 5/16 and about 2 1/8 inches deep up to that chamfer. You put a 60-degree chamfer on that and it goes back to 3 inches to match the inside dimension of the barrel. That'll give you a smooth transition from the barrel to the chamber when you're loading your powder in there, your powder charge. Inside of the barrel, of course, we've threaded the inside of the barrel, and at the end of the threads there's a nice seat there, and that breech plug will go in and tighten down on that seat and lock any gases out of the threaded area. And then on the outside of the barrel here, we've added a trim ring. We'll weld that on, and that'll serve as a decoration plus a little bit more strength in the back there. And then down the barrel in the middle of here, we've got a trunnion collar, as I'm calling it. We've drilled a 2 1/2 inch hole through this piece of seamless tube, and then machined some trunnions to fit in it. We installed the trunnions, welded it on the inside, chucked it back up in the lathe, machined it out to just barely slide over that barrel. Then of course on the front we've got another ring here, and that one's going to be purely just decoration. We've got the 3-inch hole in that tube with a 1-inch wall. The chamber plug again was 3 3/8 in diameter on the outside of the threads. It's also got a 1/2 inch wall. We're darn close to it. And the back of the plug, we've got about 4 inches or so on the back of the plug, 3 inches or so, 4 inches on the back of the plug that we're going to machine into something decorative. We'll leave probably 1.5 inches, 2 inches there for meat. And then you can also see a chamfer on the back of the plug there. And once we thread that into that barrel and tighten it up, that'll serve as a place for weld to go. And we'll weld that up solid, and nothing's ever going to go wrong with this thing. I'll thread the breech plug in there. You can take a look at what it's going to look like before we weld it up. Alright, here's the breech plug installed, and as you can see, we've got a nice area right here we can fill with weld. That's about 1/2 inch deep, and about the same the other way. That'll all fill with weld. We'll fill that all the way back up to the edge of the barrel, and we'll probably end up cutting that down, just truing it up and making it look decorative in the lathe when we're done. And then as far as the decorative rings go, same thing. We'll weld them up and make them look pretty. That collar, it's got a chamfer on the inside on both sides of it. There ain't no way that thing's going to move once we get it on there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to heat this thing up, preheat it, so we don't induce too much stress, if any, into the barrel while we're welding. And then we'll let it air cool without a fan. It'll probably take, I don't know, 6-8 hours or so to cool. And then we'll chuck it up in the lathe and make it look pretty. Here's the breech plug and the trim ring around the breech with some root passes on it. We're going to continue welding, probably quite a few more passes. Just build that all up, and then we'll have something to machine off. But we got some pretty nice looking welds in there. They're deep, penetrating, and nothing amateur about that at all. Well, here we are 5 passes later on the breech plug, and we've got 3 passes on that trim ring there, and I believe we're done welding that area in. Pretty strong welds. And down here on our collar, we've got 2 passes down there. And then on our trim ring down on the front there on the muzzle, we've got 2 passes down there. Yeah, we don't need any more to keep that thing on there, either one of them, but I think we might want to cut a pretty heavy profile in there for a decorative cut. So I'll probably end up adding some more weld to it that we can machine out later. Still keep the integrity of the root passes there. Well, you're looking at the finished barrel here in the end of the lathe. in the steady rest, we cut the profile on the end of it. Again, this big piece here, that was that trim ring we put on there, comes down to here. That was the end of the barrel, and then from there over to here is all solid breech plug, and back down around. That whole thing's machined out of that breech plug, and there's a solid 1.5 inches or so of breech plug left there behind the chamber before we put that ball on it. And we cut a similar profile to the other ones in the collar that holds the trunnions, and then up here in the front where we got a profile on the muzzle of the barrel. Anyway, we're going to take that out and drill a fuse hole in it, put some stampings on it, get some primer on it, shoot it. Here it is sitting on the scale, weighing it at 117.6, wearing a coat of primer. Pretty heavy.